if you drastically double your fiber intake today, there is a very high probability you will feel absolutely miserable by tonight. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah, that is practically a guarantee.
Right. Today, we are looking at why the ultimate natural shortcut for healthy weight management, which is fiber, is practically weaponized if you don't understand the exact mechanical rules of how to consume it.
It's so true. I mean, people just hear eat more fiber and they go totally overboard.
Exactly. So whether you are actively optimizing your meal prep or you are just insanely curious about the biology of what actually makes a diet sustainable over the long haul, you are in the right place.
Because we are bypassing the fads today.
We are. Our mission is to break down the specific mechanics of a sustainable plate. We are going to look at why certain foods act as physical satiety triggers, how to bypass those digestive disasters, and why building an ecosystem around your plate is the only way this works. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, we really have to start by completely discarding the concept of the restrictive diet. That is the foundational shift here.
Because for decades, the entire conversation around weight management has been framed around subtraction.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like what you have to cut out, what you are denying yourself, the sheer willpower of eating less. But the reality of human physiology is that sustainable weight loss and steady energy, they actually come from addition.
Right, you build consistent habits centered around whole, minimally processed foods.
And the absolute center of gravity for this entire physiological approach is fiber. It's the architectural framework of how your body regulates energy.
And it does that by executing three very specific mechanical functions. It forces you to feel full longer, it physically supports the motility of your digestion, and it shuts down the biochemical urge for unnecessary snacking.
Right. But we can't just say eat more fiber and leave it there. We need to look at the dual engine system operating inside the gut.
You mean soluble fiber and insoluble fiber?
Yes, they perform completely different jobs.
Yeah.
They're essentially running two different operational playbooks in your gastrointestinal tract. So let's look at soluble fiber first.
Okay, so when you ingest soluble fiber, it physically dissolves in water inside your gut, right?
It does. It forms this thick, viscous, gel-like matrix. And this isn't just taking up space, It fundamentally alters the environment of your stomach and small intestine.
It slows down the entire rate of gastric emptying. I actually like to visualize soluble fiber as adding a pace car to a racetrack.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, like if you just eat simple carbohydrates, it's like a pack of race cars rocketing straight into your bloodstream. You get a massive spike in blood sugar, followed by a massive crash.
Which is exactly what triggers that mid-afternoon urge to aggressively snack.
Right. But when you introduce that soluble fiber, that gel-like matrix acts as the pace car. It physically blocks the rapid enzymatic breakdown of those sugars.
It forces the glucose to enter your bloodstream at a slow, tightly regulated, controlled speed, which maintains your insulin levels in a completely stable state.
And that is the true biological definition of feeling full longer. You aren't just stretching the stomach, you are stabilizing the metabolic environment.
Exactly, but then you have the second engine, which is insoluble fiber. This type does not dissolve in water.
So it maintains its structural integrity throughout the entire digestive process.
Yeah, it's the physical sweeper of the system.
Okay, so it literally sweeps the system out.
Precisely. It adds sheer physical bulk to the stool and stimulates peristalsis, which are the muscular contractions of your intestinal tract. It physically pushes matter through the system.
So when you combine the pace car effect of the soluble fiber with the sweeping motility of the insoluble fiber, you optimize the entire digestive sequence.
You extract the energy slowly, and you clear the waste efficiently.
And when you look at the actual delivery vehicles for these fibers, it completely destroys the idea that eating for weight management means forcing down bland, boring food.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have grains and seeds like oats, chia seeds, flax seeds, quinoa. You have an entire spectrum of fruits like apples, pears, berries, avocados.
And then you have the really hearty vegetables and legumes: beans, lentils, chickpeas, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots, sweet potatoes.
We aren't just looking at a grocery list here. We are looking at distinct structural profiles.
What's fascinating here is how the physical properties of these specific foods dictate their function. Take chia seeds, for example.
Oh yeah, if you've ever put chia seeds in water, you watch them develop that thick, gelatinous halo, almost immediately.
Right, you are literally watching the soluble fiber matrix form right in front of your eyes. That is exactly what happens in your stomach.
Or look at something incredibly dense like lentils or chickpeas.
Yeah, they provide a massive dose of both soluble and insoluble fiber wrapped around a complex carbohydrate, making them one of the most efficient, slow-burning fuel sources you can possibly consume.
And on the other end of the spectrum, you have berries or an apple, which deliver a faster digesting profile.
But they're still structurally bound by the fibrous skin and tectins, so you still get that controlled glycemic response.
It's just a vibrant, flavorful palate. You can engineer a sweet profile for breakfast with oats and berries, and a deeply savory, heavy profile for dinner with roasted sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts.
And you are activating the exact same physiological satiety mechanisms either way. It proves that eating whole foods isn't a punishment. You are working with your body's natural mechanoreceptors.
Wait, what do you mean by mechanoreceptors? Is fiber basically acting like a natural sponge in our system? It absorbs water, expands, and sends a signal to the brain that we're full.
Yes. When you fill the stomach with these bulky fibrous foods, the physical distension of the stomach wall triggers the vagus nerve.
Okay.
And that sends a direct signal to the brain saying, we have received adequate structural material, turn off the hunger hormones.
But let's look at the trap here.
Yeah.
Because if someone hears all this and they understand the pace car mechanism, they might think, great, I'm going to optimize this immediately.
Yeah, they go all in.
Right. So if someone just eats a giant mixing bowl-sized portion of nothing but Brussels sprouts and flax seeds for dinner, is that enough?
Oh, definitely not. If they maximize the fiber intake in a complete vacuum, it's going to be a disaster, a total systemic failure.
Because fiber in a vacuum does not work.
No, it is merely the regulatory mechanism. It is not the complete fuel source. You cannot just eat a mountain of raw broccoli and expect sustained, steady energy.
The fiber has to be anchored.
It demands to be paired with lean proteins and healthy fats to construct a genuinely balanced meal.
Let's break down why that anchoring is so critical. If fiber is the pace car controlling the speed of delivery, the proteins and fats are the actual payload being delivered, right?
That's right. You need the lean protein because it triggers its own highly specific cascade of satiety hormones, like PYY, and provides the essential amino acids for physical repair.
And you need the healthy fats because they provide the dense caloric energy that your brain requires to function.
Exactly. If you just eat fiber, you are slowing down a delivery system that has no cargo. You will eventually crash.
And beyond the energy crash, you run into the physical reality of what an unanchored, massive influx of fiber does to the digestive tract.
There's a very specific operational safety protocol when dealing with this kind of dietary shift. The physiological reality of digestive comfort is incredibly delicate.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's translate that delicate digestive comfort into reality. Imagine your gastrointestinal tract is a two-lane highway.
Okay, I like this.
If your current diet is highly processed and relatively low in fiber, the traffic is moving at a fairly predictable, unimpeded pace.
Right.
Suddenly shifting to a diet packed with oats, lentils, and raw vegetables overnight is the equivalent of taking hundreds of massive, heavy freight trucks and dumping them onto that two-lane highway all at once.
And without the proper infrastructure, those trucks are going to lock up. You are going to experience severe bloating, cramping, and a complete cessation of movement.
So if you don't gradually widen the road and add enough lanes, which in this case is the hydration and water,
Right.
you're going to end up with a massive, uncomfortable traffic jam in your digestive system.
You absolutely are. You have to gradually introduce the trucks onto the highway to allow the system and your microbiome to adapt. But more importantly, you have to physically widen the lanes with aggressive hydration.
Because that is the crucial missing link for most people.
It really is. Fiber, especially that soluble gel-forming fiber, is highly hydrophilic. It actively pulls water from its surrounding environment to form that matrix.
So if you consume a massive amount of chia seeds or whole grains, but you do not consume enough water,
The fiber will pull whatever residual moisture exists in your GI tract, and then it will essentially turn into concrete. It becomes a hard, dry, immovable mass.
wow. So water is literally the solvent that keeps the entire mechanism functional.
It dictates the osmotic balance of the gut. When you flood the system with water, the soluble fiber can expand fully into a soft gel, and the insoluble fiber has the lubrication it needs to sweep the tract efficiently.
So the formula is non-negotiable. Increase the physical bulk slowly to train the gut bacteria, and increase the water intake proportionally to keep the sheer physical mass moving.
Exactly.
Well, we've engineered the perfect plate at this point. We have the dense fiber acting as the pace car, we've anchored it with lean proteins and healthy fats to provide the payload, and we are heavily hydrating to maintain the structural integrity of the digestive highway.
But this is where we have to zoom out.
Right. Because you can have the most perfectly engineered bowl of quinoa, black beans, and avocados sitting in front of you. But if the rest of your lifestyle is a chaotic mess, the food cannot do its job. We have to look at the broader ecosystem.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the biological processing of food does not occur in a vacuum. It is heavily dictated by 5 specific lifestyle pillars.
Which the source lists as meal planning, portion control, regular exercise, quality sleep, and mindful eating.
Right. And if you ignore these, you are essentially pouring premium fuel into an engine with a broken transmission.
Sleep is the one that really jumps out to me. Why are we talking about sleep in a deep dive about fiber and digestion?
Because people usually want a quick fix.
Exactly. They want to hear that just adding quinoa and avocados will solve everything. But by including sleep and exercise, is the source essentially admitting there is no magic bullet and that fiber is just one piece of a much larger puzzle?
It is absolutely admitting that. It proves that human endocrinology is a highly integrated web. Let's look at sleep deprivation, for instance.
Go.
When you lack quality sleep, your body radically alters its hormonal baseline. It suppresses leptin, which is the hormone that tells your brain you are full and satisfied.
And simultaneously, it massively spikes ghrelin, right?
Yes, which is the hormone that screams at your brain to find high-calorie, fast-acting energy immediately.
So your brain goes into absolute panic mode for quick glucose.
Exactly. And in that biochemical state, your perfectly engineered bowl of lentils and broccoli is suddenly fighting a losing battle.
Because the fiber is trying to send its slow, steady satiety signals, but the sleep-deprived brain is overriding those signals, demanding simple sugars to stay awake.
You cannot out-eat a destroyed sleep cycle. The habits have to run in parallel. Exercise operates on a similar parallel track.
Because it increases insulin sensitivity at the muscular level, meaning the steady glucose delivery from your fiber-rich meal is actually absorbed and utilized by the muscles rather than stored.
Right. And then we have to factor in the actual mechanics of how we consume the meal. Let's look at portion control and mindful eating.
We know that fiber physically stretches the stomach, triggering those mechanoreceptors to fire a signal up the vagus nerve to the brain. But there is a biological delay in that system, isn't there?
There is. There's roughly a 20-minute latency period between the physical distension of the stomach and the brain actually registering that satiety.
Which means if you are just mindlessly inhaling a massive portion of food while staring at a spreadsheet or watching a screen, you will easily outpace the biological speed limit.
Easily. By the time your brain registers the fiber expanding and doing its job, you have already consumed double the portion you actually needed.
So mindful eating is simply the act of slowing down your jaw to match the speed of your vagus nerve.
That's a perfect way to put it. It is aligning your behavior with your biology. When you incorporate meal planning, you remove the decision fatigue that usually leads to reaching for highly processed fads in a moment of panic.
And when you control the portion and eat mindfully, you allow the physiological mechanisms of the food to actually register.
This is the difference between a restrictive diet, which is just a temporary battle against your own hunger cues, and building consistent habits.
Which is aligning your environment so your body's natural regulatory systems can function. It is such a profound shift in perspective. You are not depriving yourself, you are strategically nourishing yourself.
Exactly.
You are utilizing the physical architecture of oats, lentils, berries, and sweet potatoes to naturally seize control of your appetite.
You are hydrating to keep the internal highway lubricated and moving.
And you are wrapping those physical materials in a lifestyle of quality sleep and mindful pacing that actually allows the hardware to work.
And when you execute that full ecosystem, the outcomes shift from a short-term drop on the scale to a permanent elevation in your baseline quality of life.
You achieve highly stable, steady energy levels throughout the day without the afternoon crash.
You fundamentally alter and improve the bacterial composition of your gut, and ultimately, you make the physical act of healthy eating genuinely satisfying because you are no longer fighting your physiology.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? It means the power is entirely in your hands, and you can start applying the mechanics of this immediately without tearing your life down to the studs.
Just look at the structural vehicles we discussed. Pick 1 or 2 to integrate today.
Toss some chia seeds into your morning routine to build that soluble gel. Swap out a highly processed side dish tonight for the heavy, sweeping bulk of roasted broccoli.
Anchor it with a solid protein. Drink a massive glass of water to widen the digestive lanes.
And remember the golden rule of the traffic jam. Go slow. Let your microbiome adapt.
This raises an important question, though, when we look at the ultimate trajectory of optimizing this system.
Well, the source mentions that fiber-rich foods improve gut health. Knowing what we do about how deeply the gut is connected to the rest of the body, often called the second brain, could changing your daily habits to support your digestion actually end up transforming your mood and mental clarity far beyond just managing your weight.
Oh, definitely. Considering the vast majority of your body's serotonin is produced directly in the digestive tract, it's a huge factor.
It is a really powerful concept to sit with the next time you are deciding what structural materials to build your plate with. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We loved unpacking the mechanics of this with you, and we will catch you on the next one.